Hi, everyone, and welcome to EduMatch. Thank you so much for joining us. Follow along with us at bit.ly/tweet talk80, as well as on Twitter with the hashtag EduMatch. Speaking of EduMatch, did you know that you could be the featured person of the day and get all kinds of connections for your PLN from around the world? You could just go to our website, edumatch.org, and look for the sign up tab, and then you will see the different you'll see the Google form where you can go ahead and sign up to be person of the day. So just wanted to give a huge shout out to our moderator tonight. We have Dean Gainey here moderating an awesome panel, and we are going to be talking about reading comprehension. So I would like to get all the panelists to please introduce themselves. Let's start off with Dave. Dave, can you hear me? I think you're muted.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Am I back on? Hi, I'm Dave Middlebrook, and I'm the founder of textmapping.org.
Awesome. Welcome back, Dave. Great to have you. All right. And next we'll go to Danielle.
Hey guys, I'm Danielle Brown, and I am from Houston, Texas, and I'm with Innovation Education Center.
Fantastic. Welcome to EduMatch, Danielle. Great to have you here. And last but not least, we have Suze.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Porath. I'm currently an assistant professor at Kansas State University, but I was a classroom teacher, K-12, lots of different subjects and areas for about 13 years before I went back to school.
That is awesome. Very, very great to have you here. So thank you for joining us. And now I'm going to have our awesome moderator, Dean Gainey, introduce himself and take away the conversation.
And hello, everybody. My name is Dean Gainey. I am an educator in the state of Florida, primarily ELA, but I also teach gifted and technology as well. And so happy to be here as moderator, as well as to have you all on panel. And so I'm very excited to talk about reading comprehension. And so we'll go ahead and get it started here with question number one. And I'll start off with a quote. Walter Kern quoted that in 4th grade, I learned that reading was serious business, and not just a pleasant way to pass the time, and that like medicine or engineering, it had a definite valuable purpose: to foster comprehension. So first question is to all of you on panel, what is reading comprehension? Anybody, if anyone would like to chime in, you can raise your hand or just start talking. That would be great. All right, Danielle, take it away.
Well, when I think about reading comprehension, it's not just the aspect of just calling out words in order. It's the understanding and the ability to analyze what you're reading for understanding.
And the simple definition I use is making meaning from text.
Yeah, I would say also that the word comprehension comes from Latin comprehendere. So it's to completely, in essence, to wrap your arms around something. And that word also is the root of the words prey and predator. So in a lot of ways, it's a very active process. We do it while sitting in chairs, although my work involves kids standing up and walking around in order to comprehend on scrolls instead of books. But the basic idea is they really wrestle with the thing. They become predators, and the prey is the text that they're trying to eat. It's one way to look at it. So it's a very powerful word, and we forget that when we're sitting on a sofa.
Absolutely, I agree with everything you've said, and I've tried to pull out little pieces of, but I'm a firm believer that it is an active process, Dave. So I agree with that. I also agree that it's more than just reading from a book. Is to me also that ability to use that information in some way or be an active user of it. So I appreciate your comments as well there. And great. So I don't know if anybody had anything else to come back with. If not, we'll move on to question number 2.
I guess the one thing I would add to it is that we have a tendency in general to make reading a really isolating activity. And that for me, a lot of comprehension is the social aspect of it, that we're making meaning of text together. It's not just me and the text, but it's all of us working together to make meaning. Whether or not somebody else has read the book, I understand better when I'm interacting with somebody else and trying to figure out what I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I agree. It's very constructivist. And I agree with that. Yeah.
I wanted to bring out the idea, Suze, that you said, the idea of perspectives and viewpoints, and how you can really bring out meaning and see the different sides of a topic or different sides of a subject. Being that I teach ELA, it definitely says a lot when you can have students set up in a way where they can each hear the different ways that students view things and then be able to learn from those different viewpoints. So I agree wholeheartedly with your comments. All right. Okay. Well, I'm ready to move on to question number 2, if everybody's ready. So question number 2, let me go ahead and pose that to you. What checks and balances do you have to ensure that students are comprehending in your classroom? So if you are teaching in a classroom at this point in time, how do you ensure that students are comprehending what you are teaching in your classrooms? Anybody want to chime in for that one?
Yeah, I'm a believer in questioning. Questioning is very important to me, and not just on the surface, but really going deeper into the text and deepening the question and seeing their ability to analyze the material. So questioning is one of the biggest things. The first thing I always go with first is that questioning. Then I want them to show. So I want them to produce something to show their understanding of what they've read.
I think in my work, I work with scrolls again, and one of the advantages of unrolling a text so you can see the whole thing, then you can mark it, and when you see the kids marking it, it's very much what you were just talking about, Danielle, when you mentioned, you want to question when you want to produce something. In my case, with the work I do, what you're producing is they have a visual record of their comprehension. You see it unwinding in front of you. So teachers often say when they use my work that they can see from across the classroom which kids need help, which ones are having trouble, and which ones are really cruising. And so but it's important. That's one way of visualizing it, so to speak. But it's very important to dig deeper with them and get them engaged.
So building off of that, I would agree that having some kind of product, and in your case, a visual one, I use a lot of different types of graphic organizers. And this was both when I was in the K-12 classroom and now at the college level, that anytime I have students try to represent their thinking, they have to do it in some different way. And especially when they're with a partner or a small group, to have some sort of accountability is by putting their thoughts down on paper, whether it's a graffiti wall or a Venn diagram or a character map or a full body portrait. I mean, there's just so many graphic organizers that you could potentially use, but then they also can assess themselves as they're working on it if it's making sense.
Yeah, absolutely, Susie. And Suze, I definitely use a variety of graphic organizers as well. I like the whole visualization element that Dave mentioned, and also what Danielle mentioned about creating, questioning, and analyzing. Particularly, if I recall one of the projects that we had in class, students like to have that variety in what can we create as a result of reading, and really, in bits and pieces, it identifies their ability to synthesize information. So you might have different things going on within that whole creation phase, but that synthesis is so important. And I'm very, very big on visualization in the classroom. And as much as I can integrate that, I feel like it's solidifying that knowledge in the students' minds. So great thoughts that you shared there. And we're going to move on to question number 3. If we're all good, anybody have any final comments on that question?
Yeah, I would just like to add with that one. When I think about that, when we talked about producing the work, I find that also very important of them having a variety, because sometimes students can have a tendency to catch themselves when they did that initial, so they admit, and once they start to produce it in a different format, they can go back and they check themselves actually, so it become a self-checking mechanism for students.
Awesome, Danielle. Self-regulation is so important, becoming that independent reader.
Metacognitive skills, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. Moving on to question number 3. What tools or strategies, and we've talked about some things already, what tools or strategies do you use in your classroom for struggling or reluctant readers? Struggling or reluctant readers, those ones that you have to maybe press a little bit harder to get them involved in the reading process. Anybody want to start with that one?
Oh, that's my favorite. That is my favorite. I tend to be very engaging. And so for me to get those reluctant students, I relate to them. So for me, I'm going to either rap, I'm going to rap to you, I'm going to sing to you, we're going to dance, because they have to feel comfortable. I want them to be comfortable with sharing their thoughts. And so I have to create that environment for those reluctant readers. And then once they're comfortable, I just don't throw them out there in front of the class. Then we do this small group. I'm gonna still hover. I'm be mother bear over you, still, and then I'm going to release you. So it's a gradual thing, but I have to engage you first. I have to find some form of connection to get you engaged in reading.
I do agree. Go ahead, Suze.
I would agree with that. And the thing I would add to that is, first relationships and then choice, lots and lots of choice. And to not allow my own personal biases of what I really love in a genre or a book or an author to overcome what they need to discover on their own. And so having lots of different types of books in the classroom so that they can choose from.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say that my work arose out of the struggling readers. I'm a struggling reader, and comprehension was a big problem for me. And so I developed the methods I used first for working with kids with specific learning disabilities. Not all of them, of course. It's not a big hammer, but the basic idea behind it is that the book itself is a problem. Not the book, the content, the book, the envelope, the container. There have been many kinds of books over the 9,000 or so years of writing. And scrolls were for 3,000 years the big deal. And when the Codex, Roman Codex, was invented, it was invented as a tablet, a writing tablet, and wasn't really invented for reading and for readers. I can't say the scroll was either, to tell you the truth, but it's closer. Today, given modern texts, I think people in the ancient world could not have possibly imagined what you can do with a scroll today, because we've had centuries of struggle with text, which is why we have such richly marked up texts. Those were all designed first by scribes and later by publishers to help readers through. Why? Because we all struggle. The book is a tough medium to learn. And so getting back to what do? Well, I unroll books. I make them much easier, much more obvious to work with, much more social, and more forgiving. And that seems to work well with learning disabled kids. Does it fix everything? No, far from it. It's just another piece of the toolbox. But it attacks the problem from a different direction, which is the kid is not the problem. The book is the problem. And then you look for the abilities that they can express through another format, in my case, the scroll.
Wow. You all have shared some very interesting takeaways. And I guess the bottom line I'm getting from all three of you is the unconventional or non-traditional, perhaps, approach to reading that really makes reading more engaging. And I love the social aspect of things. I may not necessarily understand something myself when I read it, but when I can engage with someone else, or if I can understand it through music, and I just love that because I'm a singer by nature of what I do and writer. And so I love the non-traditional form. And I think as a whole, educationally, there's much to be said for being able to reach the students. So I appreciate every one of your responses on that question. Outstanding takeaways. So moving on to question number 4. I know time is moving away from us very quickly, but how do you vary your instruction in reading? And I know we've kind of talked about that a little bit. Or adding to that, how do you integrate reading variety into your teaching and their reading? And so I know we have the music and the rapping and that sort of thing, but did anybody else have anything to add that may not have been stated already?
Well, I think, you know, elementary does this really well because when they've got their blocks of reading, they've got different opportunities for children to be reading. And I don't think it's just an elementary thing that it needs to be. You know, you read to yourself, you read to others, you read as a whole group. And so never just having one book that everybody is reading, but people have multiple books and reading for multiple purposes. So sometimes it's just for myself. And so that book might be a little bit easier because it's at my independent level. But then when I'm working in a small group, it's going to be a little bit harder because there's other people to help support me with it. And then as a whole class to have a shared mentor text that we can continue to talk about throughout the year. So balance in different groupings and different difficulties level and what the expectations are of what comes out of the book.
All right, everybody wants to chime in there. I do want to say, Suze, that I try to implement that a whole lot in my classroom while they may be reading different things in our school being a non-textbook school. For that reason, I do try to have a whole group kind of reading, but then also allow them to be doing their things individually. So they're putting those skills and tools into practice. So good point. Dave and Danielle, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree. I like when you said that, you know, a shared reading. I definitely believe in that shared reading because, you know, when you think about younger students, they need that model. They need that person to model for them to know what is reading, what can it sound like, what should it sound like. You know, especially for fluency, we talk about those reluctant readers. They need to become fluent readers, so they need to hear fluency. So I am a very big component of that shared reading.
Absolutely. You're good, Dave, or?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, a lot of what we're saying has been around for a long time. I mean, Alan Keene's work and the people out of the group in Colorado and Denver who first started PEBC, who first started working with constructivist types of work. I mean, this is stuff is known. You put make your classroom inviting. Have a nice library, a lot of books, a lot of time to talk. These are all really important things. And I think I'm not saying, oh, this is old hat. And actually, we're forgetting just how important it is. We're going back into checking off boxes and scoring tests. And it's really frustrating to watch. I think we need to revive the constructivist idea and everything that everybody else has talked about here today. I think, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds to me very constructivist, and I'm happy. It's nice to hear.
Awesome. Awesome, Dave. And that's really a good segue into our final question, which has to do with motivation. I believe that motivation is in large part my job. 75% of my job is motivation. So how do you, and connected to this quote, by the way, Fortune magazine says, some people will lie, cheat, steal, and backstab to get ahead. And to think all they have to do is read. So how do you motivate or continue to motivate students to read in terms of that constructivism, construction of knowledge? How do you get them to that point where they're motivated to make that happen?
You know, motivation is a daily thing. That is something you work on daily. That is all the time. But you have to show students, I believe, and talk to them about the importance. You know, you have to make it relevant. And I always say, you want a driver's license, you want to go out to eat, you want to do these, do these things, you have to know how to read and understand. And especially for I have a lot of male boys in my class, and, they want to be athletes. And so I make it relevant for them to understand if you can't comprehend a contract, that's where reading comprehension, someone's going to mess over you. And so you have to make it relevant, but also that constant motivation, that constant encouragement, that's a daily task of mine, but you just have to make it relevant and have them to understand that you only read this text right now, but you also can read this for enjoyment and this for enjoyment as well, but make it relevant.
I think you try to build on success too. And that, again, I do think that moving from bound books to unrolled books is very powerful, especially in the beginning, because it invites them in a way that they don't have otherwise. And that helps motivation, because when you find success, when you find joy, when you really start to wrestle with ideas socially with other people, and a scroll is a very broad, very wide, very panoramic. So a lot of kids can be working up and down a scroll and talking. It's very exciting. And you know, it's very motivating. Whereas, you know, when you see kids sitting on a sofa by themselves with a book, you know, what's going on in the mind should be exciting, should be very motivated and fun, but we know it's not always so. It's often a dry sludge for these kids, and I think that you know, making it easier to start out with will help them, will fortify them, so that when they have to dig into a book, to a bound book, they have to dig into that, they'll have the confidence and the motivation to do it.
Awesome. Susan, any final thoughts?
One of my education mentors is Harvey Daniels in his book, Voice and Choice. And I think that really, for me, exemplifies what it is that children need to have choice in what they're reading, and they need a voice in how they're reacting to it, how they're showing that they know it, because I can get them to do comprehension questions, but it doesn't mean that they're actually reading. It means that they're complying. And once you give them the agency that they're making their own choices and they're deciding how to represent what they're understanding, it becomes more internally motivation rather than external motivation with grades.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just wanted to, as a final, you know, plug is the life, connecting it to life and their interests. That's really what I'm hearing in all of that, what you're saying. If they can attach it to life, if you can bring in those real life examples, like the contract, like the menus that they're going to have to read when they want something to eat, like Danielle said. And just, I think when it does have relevance, there is motivation inherent within it. So I want to, I'm going to send it back to Sarah, because I know we're probably a little over time here, but I appreciate all of your thoughts and all the items that you've shared. It has been an awesome, I guess, 22 minutes. And I thank you so very much for indulging me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean, and thank you so much to everyone on panel. Just wanted to thank again Dave, Danielle, and Suze for your great insights, and Dean for the awesome moderating. So just wanted to, as an FYI, the Twitter chat will be transcribed and available within the next few minutes, and the show will be available as an iTunes podcast within the coming weeks. So next week, we're going to have a great discussion about difficult conversations in education with moderator Val Brown. So definitely come back for that. That's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So anyone can be a panelist. Just sign up at tinyurl.com/edumatch sign up. And if you'd like, subscribe at bit.ly/edumatch podcast. So that is everything for this week. Oh, one more thing. We are also doing March Madness. Yes. EduMatch March Madness Challenge, which is going on from now until the end of March. So you can sign up at bit.ly/March Madness sign up. So check that out. A nice way to gamify a reading challenge for your students. So ties in very nicely with the conversation tonight. So again, thank you all so much and have a fantastic week.
Thank you.